It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, August 5th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds. The smoke from the Canadian fires, that'll be back. The high 86. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 72. And then Wednesday, mostly cloudy, high 82. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 65 partly cloudy in New City up in Rockland County. It's 64 and partly cloudy in Hamilton over in New Jersey. And it's 68 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
There's been another Legionnaires' death in Harlem. We know more about a New Jersey state trooper who killed a couple. The mayoral candidate's talking affordability. A Long Island family wants to know why cops failed to tell them their dog was dead. And a mysterious box full of photos is found in the Bronx. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Maybe you're heading out to do the morning commute thing. And what we can tell you is the PATH station, which was a mess in Newport yesterday, back open today, but they are warning there could be delays. So PATH riders hoping, of course, for a better commute this morning after a fire broke out under a train. It was a little bit after we were off the air yesterday at the Newport station. It disrupted service. It freaked out riders. In fact, some riders were injured in getting off these trains. A frightening scene as flames poured out from under a train, filling one train with smoke.
I take it every morning, to go to work. I work in the city at Bellevue. And today I'm started in a new clinic, so this is not a good thing.
No.
I'm going to be late, and it's not a good look for me.
Now, if you saw any of this footage, workers opened the doors so panicked riders could get out. More than a dozen customers treated for smoke inhalation, many of them taken to the hospital.
I commute into the city about 4 days a week. This is my normal station. It's usually reliable, but it looks like on days like today, it is not. So just a little frustrating, start of the week, but we got to move over to Exchange Place.
Yeah, so the cause of the fire, it's under investigation. The NTSB is actually on the scene investigating the incident. The station is back open this morning, but again, PATH trains, the Port Authority telling us the possibility there could be some delays this morning. So if you're heading that way, you definitely want to make sure before you do that. In Harlem, a second person has now passed away from Legionnaire's disease. More than 50 have fallen ill as part of what is a growing Legionnaire's cluster in Harlem. The disease was initially detected back on July 25th. Since then, now a second person has died. 58 people have been diagnosed. Legionnaire's is a type of pneumonia that's caused by bacteria, Legionella, which grows in warm water. Now, doctors say it's very treatable, but of course, you need to know that that's what you have.
It's usually transmitted through being exposed to aerosolized, contaminated water. And that usually comes from cooling towers or HVAC systems that we see in our big buildings in New York City.
Okay, these cases are from a cluster that have been found in 5 Harlem zip codes, 127, 130, 135, 137, 139, along with some bordering communities. This according to city health officials. The deputy chief medical officer for the city's health department is warning people if you feel sick and you have some symptoms that feel sort of flu-like and you live in those zip codes in Harlem, you should definitely get checked out.
If you're in that zone, in those zip codes that have demonstrated exposure, then we want you to monitor your symptoms and get to a healthcare provider as soon as you possibly can so that you can get access to antibiotics because it is treatable.
Yeah, those antibiotics, they work right away. So all cooling towers that are operating building in the impacted area in Harlem have been sampled now, and the health department has told owners of buildings where positive results were found to initiate remediation within a day. Apparently that is happening, but awfully frightening now. A second death from that Legionnaires cluster in Harlem. The lobby at 345 Park Avenue reopened yesterday morning, exactly 1 week after a gunman opened fire, killing 4 before turning the gun on himself. Now, the question was, would workers come in after that devastating mass shooting last Monday? Well, some did. Some of the offices in that building remain closed, but others were back open yesterday.
I'm not surprised. Of course, you got to go. You got to keep it moving. Otherwise, people will never forget.
Profit is a necessary thing of business, so they're going to open the building. I mean, that's what they're going to do.
It's New York, so I won't say I'm surprised. I'm not even going to lie to you like I'm surprised.
Now, this office building is right around the corner from us, so I drive past it every day, and there was a lot of police vehicles there. There were police officers outside the building just to make people feel safer about going back to work yesterday.
It might be tough for some people, but how should I put it? They need to go back to work.
If it was me, even if I had a family member that worked in that building, I would really be concerned and say, you know what, try to give yourself some other options down the road.
The people who work there, I do feel like they probably are feeling a little traumatic. You know, if it happened in my lobby, I might not feel, as much as safe.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The building is open, but the NFL, which was the suspected target of the gunman, says workers can remain remote through at least the end of this week as they come up with a new plan. The NYPD expanding a pilot program now designed to improve the quality of life for New York.
Mayor Adams says quality of life teams will now be in Brooklyn addressing things like noise complaints, illegal mopeds, abandoned vehicles, encampments, and outdoor drug use.
When I think of this borough, I see my own story growing up in Brownsville, and many of these communities were always overlooked when it came down to quality of life issues. But we are turning that around.
The NYPD expanded teams to every precinct in Manhattan and the Bronx last month. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says New Yorkers in Brooklyn should soon notice an improvement when it comes to quality of life issues. Lisa G., 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:08. There's a lot of fires across the country. Firefighters continuing to battle these growing wildfires in the West as smoke from hundreds of Canadian wildfires wafts back into the New York City area in a big way today. You'll see it. Maybe you saw it yesterday in parts of New Jersey where it almost looks like it's cloudy, but it's smoke from those fires. Correspondent Shaquille Brewster has more.
Today, actually marking 1 month since the start of the Dragon Bravo fire that's closed down the northern rim of the Grand Canyon and has now become the largest fire in the United States.
Updated figures this morning show the Dragon Bravo fire has now burned more than 123,000 acres along California's central coast. The Gifford fire has charred more than 65,000 acres. That blaze, which started Friday northeast of Santa Maria, is threatening about 360 homes. It's only 3% contained. 509 down to Texas, where Democratic members of the Texas House left the state over the weekend in an effort to block Republicans from approving a redrawn political map of U.S. House districts. The new map, drawn at the behest of President Trump, is meant to flip 5 seats now held by Democrats in the Republicans' favor. So the Texas House approved arrest warrants yesterday for the Democrats who fled the state. Here's the Speaker of their House.
There is one member who said that they're doing a fundraiser here in Austin tomorrow, and I've sent that fundraising letter to DPS and said they should be invited to attend as well. We'll see how that goes forward.
Okay, so Democrats, they held rallies actually here in New York, Chicago, and Boston yesterday. They vowed to stay away from Texas until a special session ends this month. The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, called the quorum break a cowardly desertion.
The governor has called me. He has offered DPS to fully help us make sure we need to do what can be done to establish a quorum, come back here, take care of the issues on the call, and address them in the way all Texans expect.
Okay, so those Democrats, they are pushing back, some of them here in the Big Apple, saying they're not going back to Texas.
Your continued support reminds us that the fight to protect democracy is not confined to one state. The fight is for all 50.
The move would deny Republicans the minimum number of lawmakers needed present in order to able to conduct legislation. That's what's going on. So the move follows what was a marathon public hearing on the plan in the state capitol on Friday, which came less than a week after state Republican lawmakers proposed the new maps.
The fight isn't just about lines on a map. It's about lives on the line. That's why we're here. That's why we're fighting. It's about democracy. The playing field has changed, not just for Democrats, but all Americans. And it's time to meet them on the new field.
Okay, so it's called gerrymandering. I know this story's a little complicated. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it's the practice of drawing political maps to give one party an outside advantage. It's hardly new. It goes on all the time, but normally redistricting is typically done once every 10 years after a new census mandates what's a rebalancing of congressional seats and districts to match what are population shifts after censuses are done. So redistricting in the middle of a decade, that's rare, and that's why this is contentious. And of course, it's all about looking forward to next year's congressional races, the midterm elections. The numbers are very tight, and the president wants to do anything he can to retain control of the House. So that's why this gerrymandering is happening now as opposed to after a census. And we'll get into in the second half hour what New York is doing to push back against the president. 512. Another official in the Biden administration scheduled to testify today in the GOP probe of the ex-president's mental fitness in office. Bruce Reed, he was the former deputy chief of staff for policy, previously agreed to do a closed-door interview, but it's unknown if he'll plead the fifth, which others have done, not answer questions. The probe has been focused on the president's mental decline and the use of that auto pen. Republicans say that auto pen use may make some of Biden's pardons void. 513 out to California, where leaders there are providing an update on the state's legal battles with the Trump administration, and there's a long list of them.
California DOJ has had to file 37 lawsuits against the federal administration in just 28 weeks, more than one lawsuit per week.
That's the Attorney General in California, Ram Bonta, along with Governor Gavin Newsom. They say the state spent about $5 million of a $25 million budget that's allocated for their legal efforts. During this press conference, they noted the state has won 17 of the 19 early court decisions.
$5 million of special session money to fund the work to support attorneys and paralegals in my office. $168 billion protected, like a dangerous and unruly game of whack-a-mole. They kept coming for the same funding to cut it off, to impound it. We've been ready to strike back at every turn.
The AG Bonta says the lawsuits have helped secure or protect approximately $168 billion in federal funds for California. Some of the suits have been over voting rights, LGBTQ protections, immigration, and education. 514. President Trump continues to say last week's jobs report was rigged. Correspondent Kelly O'Donnell has more.
A weaker than expected jobs report in July and revised data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics tracked a slowdown in hiring going back to May. The president fired the official in charge of those statistics.
So in a post on Truth Social, the president compared the numbers to a jobs report before the election in November, which he says was also rigged. He says both reports had record-setting revisions that favored Democrats.
The president claimed the jobs report was rigged, and Sunday posted that fired official had engaged in a scam. According to a new estimate from the Yale Budget Lab, the rising prices from all the tariffs could cost the average American family $2,400 in 2025.
In a minute, we'll go overseas as the president has sent more people to Russia to try to work out a deal, a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. We'll get into that story in just a moment. Verse 515, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning, Justin Ella.
Good morning to you, Gnome Laden. We'll start here on the diamond in Texas. The Yankees fell 8-5 to the Rangers, dropping the opener of a 3-game series with Texas and their 4th straight overall. Paul Goldschmidt led off the game with a home run and scored 3 times for the Yankees, who lost their 4th in a row. All-star lefty Max Fried left with a 5-4 lead after scuffling through 5 innings, but was denied a Major League Best 13th win. The Yankees just swept in 3 games at Miami and playing their final game before Captain Aaron Judge returns from the IL today. Led 5-4 on Giancarlo Stanton's 2-run homer in the 4th, but couldn't hold on thereafter. Fried needed 105 pitches and matched the season high by allowing 8 hits in his 23rd start for the Yankees. He struck out 7, but allowed 4 runs while 6 consecutive batters reached base in the 2nd. An errant pickoff throw of his allowed a run as well. Stanton has 10 homers in his 32 games since missing the first 70 games this season with elbow issues. Up next for the Yankees, now 2.5 games back of the Red Sox for 2nd place in the AL East. They're also tied with Seattle for the AL's 2nd wild card. Will Warren gets a start in tonight's Game 2 of 3 out in Texas. First pitch against the Rangers is scheduled for 8:05 p.m. in Queens. The Mets went down 7-6 to Cleveland in 10 innings, dropping the series opener in 6 of their last 7 overall. Pete Alonso hit his 251st career homer to pull within 1 of Darryl Strawberry's franchise record, and the slugger has 3 homers in his last 4 games. Alonso had his 4th hit, an RBI single in the 8th before Mark Vientos delivered the game-tying sac fly. Starter Sean Manaea gave up 5 runs and struck out 3 in 5 2/3 innings of work. Up next for the Mets, now a game and a half back of Philadelphia for first place in the NL East. Clay Holmes will get the start in tonight's Game 2 of 3 against Cleveland. First pitch from Queens is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:18 down to South Carolina, where Congresswoman Nancy Mace, of course a good friend of Sid on Sid and Friends in the Morning, announcing yesterday her bid for governor of the Palmetto State.
We have a huge opportunity here in the midterms in 2026 to elect America First governors.
The Congresswoman making it official during a release on her personal website. This was on Sunday night.
One of the reasons that I'm running for governor, Martha, is that I want everybody across South Carolina to know that I am fighting for them.
A poll released by the South Carolina Policy Council shows Mace receiving about 16% support from Republican identifying voters. That's 1 point ahead of one of her opponents, South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. 5:19, let's go overseas. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff heading to Russia as the White House works again for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Correspondent Rafe Sanchez reports that the president has given Moscow a Friday deadline to show it's making progress on peace in Ukraine.
Witkoff is due to head to Moscow before the end of the week, where it's likely he will meet with Vladimir Putin. And it comes as President Trump says that he is prepared to move ahead with tariffs on Russia, but also potentially secondary sanctions. If Witkoff can come back from Russia with something that shows that the Russians are listening, are feeling American pressure to make progress at the negotiating table in Ukraine, then potentially President Trump doesn't have to move ahead with those sanctions. President Trump saying that he ordered 2 American nuclear submarines into the region after Medvedev made veiled threats about nuclear war. So this is a high-stakes diplomatic moment between the 2 nuclear superpowers. These are sanctions on countries that buy Russian oil. The goal would be to hit the Russian energy sector there. The best way to think about this is a sort of last chance for a diplomatic off-ramp.
5:20, the Department of Justice convening a grand jury in the Russia election probe.
Fox News says Attorney General Pam Bondi has signed off on the move. It comes after Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard released new documents she said proves former Obama officials tried to sabotage President Trump in the 2016 election. Gabbard says the officials acting on the direction of the former president suppressed evidence that showed there was no collusion between President Trump and Russia. I'm Brian Shook.
5:21, Israel seems to be on track with a plan to take full control of the Gaza Strip. Local media reports a source in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says the decision has been made and that the Palestinian, that Hamas will not release remaining hostages hostages taken in 2023 unless the area comes under full Israeli occupation. Country's security cabinet set to meet a little bit later today to discuss the next steps in the war, which of course started after the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. There are believed to be some 50 hostages still in Gaza, but Israel thinks more than half of them are no longer alive. 521. Tourists from certain countries could soon have to pay up to a $15,000 bond for a visa to enter the U.S.
That's according to multiple reports, citing a notice sent to State Department employees today. Under the program, visa applicants from countries with high overstay rates would be required to pay a $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000 bond. Travelers will get their money back if they leave the U.S. within their visa's given time span. A 12-month pilot program is expected to launch in 2 weeks. I'm Chris Coraggio.
522 down to Texas, where lawmakers there looking to limit transgender bathroom access in schools and government buildings. The author of the bill says it's just common sense.
It protects women and children in private spaces like bathrooms, locker rooms, showers, family violence shelters that are dedicated to women.
The so-called Women's Privacy Act would set rules based on an individual's biological sex, which would be defined by sex organs, chromosomes, and a birth certificate.
Women and girls should never be forced to surrender their privacy to men pretending to be women. Safety for women and children is common sense and should not be sacrificed for the left's radical gender ideology.
There would be a $5,000 fine for a first violation. Changes coming for Social Security beneficiaries who receive good old paper checks.
The Social Security Administration announced that starting on September 30th, it would no longer issue paper checks. Now beneficiaries must opt to have their benefit payments delivered electronically by direct deposit, or if they don't have a bank account, receive their benefit payments on a prepaid debit card known as Direct Express. An agency spokesperson said the administration is proactively contacting beneficiaries to alert them about the change, and noted that if a beneficiary has no other means to receive payment, they'll continue to send paper checks. I'm Matt Mattinson.
WABC News Time 523. The company behind ChatGPT says it's updating the app now so it can better detect mental or emotional distress.
OpenAI says there have been instances where the AI model fell short in recognizing signs of delusion or emotional dependency. The update will now limit how much direct advice the chatbot will offer about personal challenges. Instead, it will try to help users decide for themselves. ChatGPT will also now remind users to take a break if conversations have gone on for a while. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
It's been 1 month now since the deadly flood swept across the Texas Hill Country. An organization that supports ongoing relief efforts there is shifting now to a long-term focus dedicated to helping residents get back into their homes.
And we're going to do it with hope and resilience and responsiveness and a steady hand for the long term.
That's Austin Dixon. He heads the Community Foundation. They've raised $100 million in flood relief already.
Whether you own or rent or somewhere in between, we're committed to helping you rebuild what home looks like.
Dixon says other support services such as Mental Health Fund have also been established to help those suffering with trauma post the flooding. Whooping cough cases on the rise across the U.S. just as kids get ready to head back to school soon. Dr. David Weber is the University of North Carolina Medical Center Department of Infectious Prevention Director. It's a long title. Here he is talking about this.
My hospital, we had no cases in 2023, 13 in 2024, and already this year, and we're only halfway through the year, we've had 27.
Yeah, so he's recommending that kids get that vaccine just a few weeks before the first day of classes.
So first of all, it is quite contagious in very young children. As many as 2/3 will have periods where they stop breathing. About 20% of children who are young will get pneumonia.
Yeah, we were looking at the CDC data. It shows there were 6 times as many cases of whooping cough in 2024 compared to 2023. So you read that and you understand why they're worried about this coming school year. And while we're talking about the coming school year, the Cleveland Clinic offering tips now on getting kids back on an earlier sleep schedule for school, with the school year starting soon for many across the country. Sleep specialist Dr. Brian Chen, he's advising parents to start gradually getting children to bed earlier, because that'll be a lot easier than a flip to earlier bedtimes at the last minute, which is really what most of us do.
In the summer, we tend to go to bed later. The sun is setting later. Our body's natural circadian rhythm, our clock in our brain, is set for later. And so we might be going to bed a lot later than we normally would be for school.
Yeah, so he says having a good bedtime routine also helps and advises against phones and other screens and bright lights right before bed. Good luck with that.
And if you start trying to scoot it back now, it will be a gradual scooting back instead of a cold turkey flip back to school time, which could be really rough for that first week of school.
There must be some good parent out there who does all this. I mean, it's not me.
Having a good bedtime routine is key to being able to fall asleep on time. And that bedtime routine should include things like getting your pajamas and brushing your teeth and getting into bed and relaxing your brain and your body. However, it should not include things like using phones, screens, bright lights.
Yeah, I can't believe we're talking about back to school, but, well, today is August 5th.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Tuesday, August 5th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds. The smoke from the Canadian fires going to be back again today. The high 86. Tonight and overnight cloudy, low 72. And then Wednesday mostly cloudy, high 82. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 65 and partly cloudy in New City up in Rockland County. 64 partly cloudy in Hamilton over in New Jersey. And it's 68 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. Just a quick programming note. Later this morning, starting at 10 o'clock, you'll have Anthony Cumia, who will be filling in for Brian Kilmeade for an hour. And then the second hour will be Katz and Curtis from 11 to 12. That's this morning right here, 77 WABC. WABC News Time 5:38. Let's go up to the Bronx, where this investigation continues into the death of a 1-year-old girl at a daycare center in the Bronx. It took place on Friday, but now we're getting more details on this girl, River Wilson, who was found in a swimming pool. This was one of these daycare centers that's in a home. And now they think what happened is that River Wilson climbed onto the deck of the pool and then possibly fell in around 1 o'clock. First responders raced in to try and save her. Here was one of the individuals that was first on the scene, who's still beside himself that he was unable to bring her back to life.
I was looking for a pulse. Initially, I couldn't find it, but I was just focusing on the CPR procedures. I question myself a lot, you know. I mean, did I do the CPR the right way? Is everything the right way? And I just go over in the back of my head if I had been there sooner.
Yeah, a small memorial was set up outside Anna's Butterfly Garden Family Group, where Wilson was dropped off on Friday. He was rushed to Montefiore Einstein Hospital, where he passed away soon after EMTs dropped him there. It's unclear, again, how he was able to get access to the pool, but the thought is that somebody just wasn't paying attention when they were supposed to be, and now his family will live with his death. Here's his aunt.
River was joyful. She was a happy baby.
Yeah, you can't get any more awful than leaving somebody off at daycare and then finding out that they've passed away. An NYPD spokesperson says they don't suspect a crime occurred here, but the investigation continues. And then just one more really awful story. So at New Jersey, a veterinarian and a volunteer firefighter were found dead in Franklin Township over the weekend. And now they've kind of pieced this whole thing together. And their suspected killer is a New Jersey state trooper. Officers discovered 33-year-old Lauren Semenchik and 29-year-old Tyler Webb shot to death in Semenchik's home on Saturday afternoon. Then a short time later, a New Jersey state trooper, Ricardo Santos, was found dead of an apparent suicide in a vehicle in Piscataway. Now, authorities say Semenchik ended her relationship with the trooper Santos in September 2024, but since had accused him of harassing her and controlling behavior. Officials say that Semenchik had recently started dating the firefighter, the two who were found dead together. Now, here's a neighbor who heard the gunfire on Saturday, knew could not be good.
We clearly heard shots. We knew pretty quickly that it was pistol, which is unusual. And then we heard the screams.
After the first 2 or 3 shots, then we started hearing the screaming.
Yeah, right. So they called the cops.
And then that was followed by, 2 or 3 more shots.
And then a hesitation, and then the final shot, and silence. You cannot deny that she was terrified, and sounded like she was running. I'd say at least 10 minutes later, maybe more, but patrol car came up the street.
So the initial investigation, again, is a double murder-suicide, and a relationship, I guess, that ended on a sour note. The trooper served in New Jersey State Police's executive protection, which meant he worked sometimes guarding the governor, most recently assigned to the Dignitary Protection Unit, and the firefighter, Webb, being remembered just as a great guy. Same with this woman, Lauren Semenchik, a veterinarian who they say was beloved in that community, but just a god-awful story. 5:42, while we're in New Jersey, 3 giant chemical companies will pay what will be a record settlement to New Jersey over so-called forever chemicals.
It's being called the largest environmental settlement ever for a single state. Chemical giants Chemours, DuPont, and Corteva said Monday they would pay the state $875 million over the next 25 years for future claims linked to PFAS and other forever chemicals. They'll also clean up 4 former industrial sites and set aside reserve cash for the work in case of bankruptcy. There are 15,000 PFAS found in everyday items like nonstick cookware that can cause medical issues. New Jersey has some of the highest PFAS levels in the nation. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New Jersey.
All right, let's bring it back here into the city. Several people are recovering today after someone released bear spray onto a subway car at the Union Square station yesterday.
Police are looking for a man in his 30s wearing a camouflage ski mask who fled the station after spraying the substance onto a number 4 train car Sunday night. Authorities say he may have been involved in a fight with another rider. Before the incident, some 8 people were impacted with 4 hospitalized. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
NYPD expanding a pilot program now to improve the quality of life for New Yorkers. Mayor Adams says quality of life teams now in Brooklyn, well, they're all across the city for that matter, addressing things like noise complaints, illegal mopeds, abandoned vehicles, encampments, and outdoor drug use.
When I think of this borough, I see my own story growing up in Brownsville, and many of these communities were always overlooked when it came down to quality of life issues, but we are turning that around.
NYPD expanded teams to every precinct in Manhattan and the Bronx last month, and now the teams will be added to every precinct in Brooklyn.
This isn't broken windows. This isn't about cracking down to prevent crime. It's about restoring order and improving quality of life. This is a real shift in how we serve neighborhoods, and it's working.
That's Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch. The Adams administration says to date, the teams have improved non-emergency response times by an average of 47 minutes. 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noah Maleta, and we'll start here on the diamond in Texas. The Yankees fell 8-5 to the Rangers, dropping the opener of a 3-game series and their 4th straight overall. Paul Goldschmidt led off the game with a home run and scored 3 times for the Yanks, who lost their 4th in a row. All-star lefty Max Fried left with a 5-4 lead after scuffling through 5 innings, but was denied a Major League Best 13th win. Yankees just swept in 3 games at Miami and playing their final game before Captain Aaron Judge returns from the IL today. Led 5-4 on Giancarlo Stanton's 2-run homer in the 4th, but couldn't hold on thereafter. Fried needed 105 pitches and matched a season high by allowing 8 hits in his 23rd start for the Yankees. He struck out 7 but allowed 4 runs while 6 consecutive batters reached base in the second. An errant pickoff throw of his also allowed a run. Stanton has 10 homers in his 32 games since missing the first 70 games this season with elbow issues. Up next for the Yankees, now 2.5 games back of the Red Sox for second place in the AL East and tied with Seattle for the AL's second wild card. Will Warren gets to start in tonight's Game 2 of 3 out in Texas. First pitch against the Rangers is scheduled for 8:05 p.m. In Queens, the Mets went down 7-6 to Cleveland in 10 innings, dropping the series opener in 6 of their last 7 overall. Pete Alonso hit his 251st career homer to pull within 1 of Darryl Strawberry's franchise record, and the slugger has 3 homers in his last 4 games. Alonso had his 4th hit, an RBI single in the 8th, before Mark Vientos delivered the game-tying sac fly. Starter Sean Manaea gave up 5 runs and struck out 3 in 5 2/3 innings of work. Up next for the Mets, now a game and a half back of Philadelphia for first place in the NL East. Clay Holmes will get the start in tonight's Game 2 of 3 against Cleveland. First pitch from Queens is scheduled for 7:10 p.m. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Allicon, 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:48. Let's go out to the campaign for mayor. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo not mincing words and how he feels about Assembly Member Zohran Mamdani's public safety policies. In a public safety address, former governor and independent challenger to Mamdani says the Assemblyman just simply doesn't get it when it comes to policing New York City.
I don't think the Assemblyman understands public safety at all. He's against having police respond to domestic violence calls, against having police respond to hate crimes, against having the police do traffic stops, and he's against adding more police.
Cuomo reading Mamdani's previous tweets calling for the defunding of police and for dissolving the NYPD Strategic Response Group. Cuomo says as mayor he proposes to expand that group and give pay bumps to help recruit and retain officers. Candidates were talking about affordability, of course, which has been a big issue for Zohran Mamdani, probably helped propel him to that win in the Democratic primary. He was holding a roundtable event yesterday with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, and he's promising to move the city towards universal child care. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
This vision that we have spoken about of delivering universal child care for children from the ages of 6 weeks to 5 years, it is one that will be for every New Yorker. It's one that will require us to keep the centers we have open, to open new centers, and to pay these workers an amount of money that they can actually live off of.
Mayor Adams talking about affordability as well, and he was making the case yesterday that he's done plenty to help with the city's affordability crisis since he took office.
Reduced fare Metro card, free high-speed broadband for NYCHA resident, paying college tuition for foster care children, no income tax for low-income New Yorkers in the city, none at all. This administration did that.
Andrew Cuomo, he was asked about rolling out a full affordability agenda soon, and he said, well, one is coming, I guess.
The more we can make it affordable, the better. And you're right, I'm going to be rolling out an affordability agenda that speaks to just that.
All right. That, I guess, coming at some point. 5:50 up to Albany. New York Democrats are trying to counter Republican efforts in Texas to pick up Republican seats by redrawing congressional maps in the Lone Star states. So Governor Hochul yesterday was with Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, and they says they will redraw New York's congressional district lines to help flip Republican seats to Democratic ones, which is what they're trying to do in Texas as we speak, except the other way around. Here was the governor yesterday.
If Republicans are willing to rewrite these rules to give themselves an advantage, then they're leaving us no choice. We must do the same. There's a phrase, you have to fight fire with fire.
Now, if you've been following the story, it's a little complicated. They were going to take a vote on redrawing the district lines in Texas this week, but Democrats left the state, so they weren't able to take the vote. So as though some of those Democrats ended up in New York yesterday, and that's what you got this press conference with the governor and others yesterday.
Your editorial boards keep asking us to be fair and play fair, and I think that's the wrong thing to ask us to do.
We're not going to tolerate our democracy being stolen in a modern-day stagecoach hoist by a bunch of law-breaking cowboys.
Yes, we don't know how this is going to end in Texas. Like I said, a little complicated, but gerrymandering is when they change the political lines to change seats from Democrat to Republican, Republican to Democrat. And normally it's done after the census is done, so they can see where populations have shifted. So to do it in between those times is a little unusual, but it's been done before. And that's what's going on in Texas. And now you have Democratic states like New York and California saying, hey, if you do it in Texas to change seats from Democrat to Republican, or districts from Democrat to Republican, we'll do the same in our states to offset. Now, this is all looking, of course, ahead to the midterm elections next year, because the numbers are so close in the House. They will, of course, the Republicans want to keep their majority. The president does. Democrats want to change that, make things a little harder for them in the last 2 years in office. 5:53, the Department of Transportation now looking into a decision made last summer to move airspace control for Newark Airport from New York to Philadelphia. The FAA decision to move control of the airspace to Philadelphia was made due to staffing issues. But now, after multiple incidents over the last few months, long delays, some lawmakers are calling for control to return to the New York control tower.
Moving N90 was the wrong decision. I'm confident that this audit will show just that. And again, we need to get more people hired so there's not overtime and there's less burnout. That's New York Congresswoman Lauren Gillen. The audit now being performed by the DOT's Inspector General, expected to take 2 months to complete. Did you see this video over the weekend of this whale in Barnegat Bay pushing this boat around? Somebody in the boat fell into the water. Then the whale died. So the Marine Mammal Stranding Center conducted a necropsy on this 20-foot whale that came into Barnegat Bay. It found that the female whale was in overall thin condition. They say blood was present in the lungs. They do not think it died from its interaction with the boat. They say they think the whale was already in bad shape. Dr. Daniel Brown, a leading expert on whale behavior in New Jersey, was saying that this kind of thing does happen once in a while, these interactions between boaters and whales. They don't usually end, though, with the whale dying.
It's a sad and difficult situation for anybody in the marine mammal field. Necropsies are super important in this case. One, minke whales are under an unusual mortality event, so this is not the first instance of a minke whale stranding in this area, so we absolutely want to learn why this is happening. We want to know what's going on.
So the thought is this whale would have died anyway. Now, maybe it died sooner than it would have. If you are a boater, apparently you're supposed to turn off your engine if you come near a whale and let them do their thing and leave. But this boater did not do that.
Take your boat out of gear, turn your motor off, wait for the whale to leave your area. The boater probably didn't do the greatest thing of being too close to it, but it was a sick whale and probably wasn't going to make it.
Yeah, at least that's what everybody's saying this morning. Out to Long Island, where a Freeport family grieving the sudden loss of their dog and how the situation was handled by local authorities. So Francine Melendez says her dog Roxy got out of their backyard on July 4th without her collar. And the dog apparently was immediately or soon after hit by a car, and police took the dog away, but no one ever told the family. So for a week, they were looking for Roxy, even though the dog had long been dead.
Just heartbroken. Every day we would go out, get in the car, looking for her, calling her.
Yeah, she tells News 12 for 6 agonizing days, the couple searched their neighborhood, calling for Roxy, hoping for the best. What they didn't know is that Roxy's body had already been found by police after she went missing. Now, the dog was chipped, so it's not clear why police didn't look at the chip or bring it to a vet to figure out who the owner was, and didn't tell them until 6 days later, which seems like a long time later.
We found out that Roxy was taken to Public Works and put outside a dumpster. The local shelter should have been notified, or Roxy could have been taken to any vet.
Yes, as Roxy's family says, the situation could have been avoided if proper protocol had been followed, specifically if Roxy had been scanned for a microchip. That's why people put these microchips in their dogs. Now, the Freeport attorney put out a statement yesterday saying that they were busy on July 4th. And, they didn't really apologize for what they did, but they said that the police were busy. But 6 days? I mean, maybe one day, but 6 days seems a little crazy.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Greg Kelly here for Colonial Metals Group. China's leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II, one that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/Kelly or call 800-655-5186 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.